in fact, are still to come. It may not even exist at all.
What's up, guys? Today we're talking about 28 years later, The Bone Temple, directed by Nia DaCosta and written by Alex Garland. The Bone Temple opens with Spike, Alfie Williams, being sworn into the crazed satanic cult of Jimmies we met at the end of 28 years later, led by Sir Jimmy Crystal, Jack O'Connell. The Bone Temple is a more intimate and harrowing look into the characters established in the first film, including the iconoclastic empath Dr. Ian Kelson, played by Ray Fiennes. This is also a much more capital H horror movie. Before we go any further, I'm going to go ahead and drop a spoiler warning, so now's your time to pause this video, go watch 28 years later The Bone Temple, and then come back and let me tell you how to feel about it. Now,
666.
while I was lukewarm on 28 years later as a full cinematic experience, I was won over by the lore building and filmmaking on display from Boyle and Garland. When The Bone Temple was announced right after that film, with Nia DaCosta attached to direct, I was even more intrigued. While I didn't find her take on Candyman successful, she had a clear knack for horror, and I was excited to see her take on this franchise. And I'm happy to say that The Bone Temple exceeded my expectations in every way. DaCosta, along with cinematographer Sean Bobbitt, briskly established this is going to be a different movie. The opening scene with the Jimmies surrounding Spike in an abandoned, emptied pool is quietly chilling. In a space that would have been filled with light and children, young Spike must defeat one of Sir Jimmy Crystal's, Jack O'Connell, clearly having a ball 7 fingers, all with variations on the name Jimmy, in order to survive another day in the rage-infected Northumberland hellscape. This scene will prove to be a litmus test for audiences, setting the tone for the kind of evil DaCosta explores by way of Garland's effective script. Alfie Williams really is so good in these scenes. A child being subjected to such horrors strikes Jimmy Scheidt's artery. DaCosta keeps the audience locked in on the bloody affair. O'Connell cackles and spurs on the carnage, the audience forced to gaze at the blunted terror. I didn't find it particularly gruesome because I'm dead inside. The world of the Bone Temple will prove to be brutal for many audiences. This is a sickening depiction of how faith and religion can be used to manipulate people into committing atrocities. Interstitched with the Jimmy storyline is Dr. Ian Kelson's story. This may be one of the finest performances of the year, a comedically perfect, iodine-soaked Ray Fiennes. Previously, he had a strange relationship with the alpha zombie he had named Samson, played again here by Lewis-Parry. Kelson compares himself as the Androcles to Samson's lion, adding on to the already established fairy tale mythos. Kelson offers a mix of opiates which seemingly allow him to connect with Samson and explore any remaining humanity underneath the insidious rage virus. There's something so heartfelt and moving in these sections, blanketed between some moments of true horror. There is one scene, apparently improvised, both vulnerable and humorous, where Samson and Kelson dance together amongst the monuments of bones. There's also something utterly hilarious about all of this happening while Duran Duran's Ordinary World plays. It's a beautiful piece of filmmaking that I will never stop thinking about, essentially creating a Frankenstein-like narrative within a zombie epic. The makeup and special effects for Samson really bring him to life. The idea of medical consent in this new world, as well as mental health awareness, is explored and handled well by Garland's script. As I watched Kelson sitting next to a drugged-out Samson, I thought, wow, the male loneliness epidemic really is a problem. But past that, Kelson is exploring ways to truly cure what the film makes clear is very much a psychological disorder veiled underneath the virus. Such a cool idea. But how can a zombie give consent to a vaccine? As Kelson is about to put down this raging brute, yes, I started crying here, Samson utters "moon," and Kelson is elated as this seeming monster still has a semblance of humanity hiding somewhere underneath the bulging veins and monster dong. I heard a reference to Kelson as a stand-in for real-life Dr. Fauci, which is fascinating to think about, but also inherent to the messaging of the film. What does the new world look like when we're still yearning for the old one? The likeness with which Ray Fiennes carries Kelson is aided by some strong visual and auditory storytelling and production design. We hear Duran Duran's Girls on film as we get a glimpse into his underground bunker, the small creature comforts of humanity keeping him and his medical mission alive in the apocalypse. This is an important setup for the film's finale, as there is an infectious sense of fun and whimsy to Dr. Kelson. Once he's made this medical revelation about Samson and the infected, speckles of brilliant red poppies grow out of the normally brown and yellowed fields around the Bone Temple. Color is returning to this brutal world. Meanwhile, the Jimmies accost a family hunkered down in the hills. Jimmy hears his father, Old Nick, in his head. I couldn't help but think of the Christmas Adventurers Club from One Battle After Another, telling him to offer this family charity. After a hilariously dark dinner table sequence where an unrecognizable Emma Laird as Jamia does her dipsy dance a la the Teletubbies, pop culture ripe for horror, the fingers literally skin alive 4 human beings. This chaotic barn burner of a scene makes the cracks in Jimmy's satanic satanic religion more apparent to the badass Jimmy Inc. Erin Kellyman in an excellent performance. The psychological damage wrought on Spike and the pregnant woman who escapes is harrowing. Terrifically effective at aligning the stakes of the movie with the evil of Sir Jimmy Crystal, making him a timeless horror villain. Jack O'Connell imbues this depraved character with real pathos, and through the madness you can see the little boy who was traumatized watching Teletubbies years ago when his father led the infected to their home, viewing them as a kind of Christian rapture. God damn, literally. O'Connell is also naturally very funny, and his charisma is inherent to understanding why he could get people to follow him, but also underscores how similar this religious cult is to the way the infected move alongside them. Jimmy's upside-down cross necklace is imperative to Garland's worldview here, a religion founded on ideals that do not exist but are defiant to the ideals that would bring actual peace and harmony. Garland has a way in his writing of creating iconography that is blatantly obvious but subtly poetic, and the character building in this film is breathtaking. The costuming is just so great too. The Jimmies are an amazing character invention, a demagogue of lost souls, crazed, tracksuit donning samurai with nothing to lose. The actors playing them did amazing work embodying the terror of these cartoons. The Jimmies and Kelson eventually cross paths after Jimmy Inc. reveals she's seen Old Nick. Dr. Kelson does appear bathed in blood a la Satan. Jimmy Crystal, and some great physical acting from O'Connell, is perplexed, but weaves an obvious yarn that he knew all along about Old Nick living in the hills amongst piles of bones, and that more of those piles exists across the hillscapes. Inc. is skeptical, but she is also the one advocating for Spike as best she can. Sir Crystal, however, has other plans and goes to commune with Kelson. There's just something so vibey in this section, and like the drug-induced hangout with Samson, it's just fun to see Kelson and Crystal engaged with each other. Kelson sees right through Jimmy's delusions, but he also sees the frightened man who knows that his satanic lie is about to run out. The scenes shared with O'Connell and Fiennes are amongst the best of the movie, as we the audience know what Jimmy is capable of, there being this hanging dread that Kelson or anyone in the world of the Bone Temple could die at any time. Kelson knows that Jimmy is more dangerous than Samson even, but the twinkle in his eye is just a teaser for the craziness that will unfold. It's not just helping Jimmy keep the veil for his fingers, it's a satire of modern religion, megachurches, and faith. It's hysterical, energizing, and a bold feat of filmmaking. Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast plays over the loudspeakers, and for a moment I thought this was his attempt to pull more infected to the area so they could ambush Jimmy. But the clear earnestness and physical commitment to performing his version of Satan is euphoric. He also respects the infected's humanity too much to use them in this way. He blows coke into the faces of the fingers, DaCosta implementing some drug-hazed camera shots as they mosh pit about. I still can't believe DaCosta and co pulled this off, and it all looks so tactile and practical too. They made something miraculous in the IP landscape that was not only refreshing but respectful to its audience. It's not afraid to be weird and go against a pre-established tone, but when Kelson realizes Spike is in their midst, he doesn't just see this as his own survival but an opportunity to save someone else, a core message of the 28X later franchise. Going off script, Kelson offers that Old Nick requires a sacrifice, with Jimmy Crystal quickly turning on him. Left to bleed out under his ossuary, but Inc. and Spike have other plans. Defeated, Jimmy Crystal is hung upside down on a giant cross, crucified, with a beautiful narrative symmetry. The drugs, and more likely his own undiagnosed mental psychosis, cause him to see the now seemingly cured Samson as a red-horned devil. Now he only wants Mummy, no more Daddy. Simultaneously, Kelson's medical oath is made good one final time as he sees the work and time he put into treating and studying Samson is paying off before he dies. It's all at once hilarious, dire, and brutally revelatory. It should not be understated the amount of emotional heft that Lewis-Parry brings to Samson. I love Samson, and I hope he returns in the next movie. While the film ends with a MCU-ified stinger that I won't spoil, I was still cheering in the audience when it happened. As John Murphy's music from 28 Days Later plays out over the credits, there was a hopeful triumph within me and the other theatergoers. There's an undeniable love for humanity in Garland's script, surprising to say after his recent Civil War, but it was startling to me how comforting I found the Bone Temple, and the quiet ways in which it appreciates human history by way of 80s new wave, live performances, and the history and things we will inevitably take for granted when apocalypse arrives. Those who, like me, were more befuddled by 28 years later, I strongly recommend you give the Bone Temple a chance. The bones laid out by Boyle and Garland give this movie a strong foundation to build on. It's no surprise I enjoyed this so much because it expanded on all the things I loved about the first one. Kelson, the weird-ass ending with the Jimmy Savile Power Rangers, the zombie evolutions. It's also much scarier, and there were several moments where I jumped out of my seat as the camera jittered over to a picturesque shot of a forest crawling with infected. While I didn't resonate with Spike as much in 28 years later, some may be jarred by his lack of screen time. This does feel purposeful, however. DaCosta's camera eye is more focused on the things happening around and to Spike, which all feels much more important to his character growth going into the next film. 28 years later was the first volume of a graphic novel, chock full of new ideas, but almost too stuffed. DaCosta and her team got to come in on the second volume, carry through on the new elements, and make something that feels more cohesive and lived in. Garland's script flourishes on mental health awareness, broken community, the way tragedy can be used to divide and conquer instead of unite, and even drug epidemics and medical conspiracy are evident but timely. Not to mention the way he eschews zombie movie conventions again by exploring Samson's medical treatment. His great writing is enhanced further by DaCosta's direction. The way she implements sound, visual cues from 28 Days Later, as well as camera techniques from the previous films, it all feels like it's honoring the source material but breathing new life. It may lack the experimentation and Anthony Dodd Mantle's undeniably frenetic and singular cinematography, but its grounded horror and incredible acting performances make The Bone Temple Nia DaCosta's best film yet, and will surely have the fan base clamoring for the third and final installment of this innovative, exciting, and prescient trilogy of films. I'm salivating already. What did you think of 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple? Is this your new favorite movie in the 28X Later franchise? If not, tell me why. Leave all the comments below, and before you go, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more. Until next time, as I try to make my way to the ordinary world, I will learn to survive.